I grew up in a tiny, forgotten town, the kind where everyone knows each other, and the biggest drama usually involves a neighbor's dog digging up someone's flower bed. But things have changed lately, and not for the better. About a month ago, body parts started appearing around town, and they all seemed to be following one person. Me. It started with a finger. Just a single, neatly severed finger lying on the front step of my house. I thought it was a prank at first. Halloween was coming up, and kids in town sometimes went all out. But the finger looked wrong. The skin was still warm, the nail clean, as if someone had carefully prepared it. I didn't tell anyone about it, just threw it away and tried to shake off the creepy feeling. But the next morning, there was another finger, this time lying on the hood of my car. This one was from a different hand. The skin was paler, the nail cracked. I reported it to the sheriff, but he brushed it off, saying someone was probably trying to scare me. He didn't seem bothered, just gave me that small-town reassurance that everything would be fine. But then things escalated. A week later, I found a foot on my front porch. And not just any foot. It had my name carved into the skin, scratched in thin, jagged letters. The cuts were deep, as if someone had taken their time with it, and the blood was still wet, dripping down the steps. I called the sheriff again, but this time, he didn't even come by. Just said I was imagining things and told me not to waste his time. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every noise made me jump. Around midnight, I heard a faint tapping on my window. I froze, listening as the tapping turned into a slow, deliberate scraping, like nails dragging down the glass. I worked up the courage to peek out, but there was nothing there, just an empty street, silent and still. But when I looked down, I saw it, a bloody handprint smeared across the window, fingers pressed hard against the glass. The next day, more parts appeared. A leg, left propped up against my front door. An ear, tucked neatly into my mailbox. A scalp, with tufts of dark hair still clinging to it, lying on my pillow when I came home from work. And each part had something written on it, scratched into the skin in that same jagged handwriting. Remember me. I tried to remember, racking my brain for anything, anyone who might hold a grudge against me. But I came up empty. I hadn't wronged anyone, hadn't done anything to deserve this. Or so I thought. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my flashlight and decided to investigate. The parts seemed to be leading me somewhere, like a twisted breadcrumb trail, so I followed them. Each piece was carefully placed, guiding me down back roads and into the dense woods at the edge of town. The further I went, the quieter it got. No birds, no wind, just the crunch of leaves under my feet and the sound of my own breathing. I reached a small clearing, and there, in the center, was a makeshift grave, a shallow hole, barely covered with dirt. My heart pounded as I brushed away the dirt, and there it was, a skull, half buried, with a twisted, agonized grin frozen on its face. But that's not the part that made me scream. The skull had something familiar about it. A resemblance, faint but undeniable. It looked like me. I stumbled back, horrified, as memories started flooding back. Late nights, blurred faces, arguments, a feeling of rage I couldn't control. Flashes of violence, of hands around a throat, of dirt being thrown over a still body. A memory I'd buried deep, forgotten, or maybe forced myself to forget. I realized the body parts weren't from someone else. They were from me. And as that realization sank in, I heard footsteps behind me. Slow, dragging steps, like someone pulling themselves along. I turned, and there, emerging from the trees, was a figure, a twisted, decaying version of myself, stitched together from the pieces I'd been finding. Its face was hollow, skin stretched tight over a grinning skull, eyes empty but fixed on me with a terrible hunger. The last thing I remember was its cold, rotting hand reaching for me, fingers pressing into my skin, pulling me into its embrace as it whispered, "Remember me." Now, I'm back in town, but no one seems to notice me anymore. They walk right past, eyes sliding over me like I'm not even there. And every night, I leave another piece of myself on someone's doorstep, another reminder of who I was, what I did, and what I've become. Because I don't think I'm alive anymore. I think I'm something else, an echo, a memory, a piece of a forgotten horror. And I'm just waiting for someone to finally notice me, to remember the truth. Until then, I'll keep leaving parts of myself behind.